Hello everybody. So recently I learned that there might be people who are watching my video that I was not expecting that were watching it. And, perhaps they might be laughing behind my back or whatnot. And, that doesn't really matter. I'm going to keep doing these videos regardless of what anyone thinks. I think the fact that there are people who think it's funny to be against circumcision and to talk about foreskin and things like that is kind of a sign of how prevalent circumcision is in this country and how going against that societal norm is considered a little crazy to people. But, it's one of those things that, if you're laughing about people fighting against circumcision, then you're being part of the problem. And you need to not be part of the problem, be part of the solution. Any societal norm that involves cutting off the body parts of babies, think about that. There is something seriously wrong with that. And people have all kinds of reasons for justifying it, but none of them is legitimate. Absolutely none. When you think about it, cutting off the foreskin of someone just because that's what we do, or because that's the look people are used to, that's really a crazy thing to do. And if talking about foreskin makes you uncomfortable, maybe that's because yours was stolen from you. No one has the right to do that. And it is a serious issue. It's a serious medical, unethical practice. And it's one of those things that no medical practitioner, no parent has the right to do that to their children. And I'm sorry that your foreskins were taken from you. But it doesn't justify doing it to the next generation. People try to justify it for many different ludicrous reasons, and all of them are false. One of the biggest that people think are legitimate is that they think it prevents diseases. And let me tell you, it does not prevent anything. People that say that are either lying or they have been seriously misinformed, because it absolutely does not. And the science and the numbers back it up. When you look at the statistics of all of the diseases that they claim that circumcision prevents, look at Europe. And I know I've said this before, but I'm going to repeat it. In Europe, the vast majority of people are not circumcised. They know that there's no reason for it. The vast majority of people are not circumcised in Europe. And yet, when you look at the statistics for the various diseases that people claim circumcision prevents, the numbers in Europe are either the same or less than the United States. And as you all know, in the United States, the vast majority of people are circumcised. So clearly, foreskin is not the issue. And so that means you are cutting off the foreskins of baby boys for no reason. And it's one of those things that removing a part of someone's body without their permission is a violation of their own individual rights as a person. And for what? To conform to what people think is the normal in the United States? Why is cutting off the foreskin considered normal? Did you know that even in the United States and nowhere throughout the world, circumcision was not the norm unless you were Jewish or Muslim for centuries. For centuries. Europe, all of the United States was not a thing. Circumcision was the exception. There was not all these supposed problems that people have created and made up. The foreskin was normal. A penis with foreskin was normal. Being circumcised, that was the weird thing. Did you know there's actually a birth defect where someone is born without a foreskin, and it's actually considered a birth defect? So, circumcision became revitalized, if you will, in the Victorian era, and people tried to promote it as a way to prevent masturbation, and that's why it gained popularity in the last 150 years or so. Now, the rest of the countries that started it, such as Great Britain, Australia, basically the countries of the British Empire, and somehow the United States also, they've come to realize, except for the United States, they've come to realize that there's really no reason for it. And they've stopped doing it. And their numbers of circumcisions have gone way down. And guess what? There's been no increase in diseases. So I'm going to say it again. Circumcision does not prevent anything. Circumcision is a waste. It's a violation of the patient who is not able to give consent. And, I've said this before again, but I'm going to repeat this also. When the whole concept of a parent giving consent for their child, it's to do what is in the best interest of the child. For example, they have cancer and something needs to be removed. They need surgery. It is done to save the life of the child. And it is done with the idea that if the child was old enough to give consent, then they would choose the same for themselves. You kind of assume that. When you give consent for someone else, you assume they would also make this choice. To try to make a decision that they would not choose for themselves kind of goes against this. Even more so, you are not preventing any diseases. You're not saving their lives or anything like that. And so there is absolutely no reason for it. And so it is frankly wrong. It's unethical. And it is a problem. And the fact that people will laugh about it shows how ingrained this crazy notion, these myths, the propaganda against the foreskin has been ingrained in our society. The fact that people think it's more normal to have your foreskin removed and will laugh at somebody who is opposed to that idea, that just goes to show the problem. So don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution.